Hello, my name is Muhammad Isnawi. Today I want to introduce you all about the background of Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is a landlocked country located on the African continent, precisely in the southern part of the African continent. The area of Zimbabwe is 390,757 kilometers square, which a population of 14,013,368 people in 2018. The country previously known as a Southern Rhodesia 1898 is Zimbabwe 1979 gained independence from Great Britain on the 18th April 1980. And geographical Zimbabwe is bordered by Zambia in the north, South Africa in the south Mozambique in the east, and Botswana in the west. The capital of Zimbabwe is the city of Harare, and the majority of the population is an African origin, is 99.4%, especially the Shona and the neighboring ethnic group. Okay, and then the mostly of the population is Protestant 74.8%, and Roman Catholic 7.3%. Zimbabwe has so many official language, but the most widely used are Shona and Nebel, while the English is the official language used in the education and business in Zimbabwe. After that, Zimbabwe joined as a member state of the British Commonwealth, and Zimbabwe hyperinflation crisis when several instances of policy management by Zimbabwe President Robert Mugabe and his government. Next, I want to explain you about the inflation and employment that occurs in the country of Zimbabwe. Number one is inflation. The inflation rate in the Zimbabwe has reached to 131.7% as of May 2022, as a cooking oil and bread price so higher as a result of Russian and invasion of Ukraine. Number two is Zimbabwe government is trying to lower price by suspending import duties on basic commodities. Zimbabwe government is trying to lower price by the suspending import duties on a basic commodity such as cooking oil, rice, and flour for control rising inflation. And number three is Zimbabwe has also experienced hyperinflation in the past decade, when inflation rose so dramatically until the government then discard the local currency and adopt other currency such as US dollar and the South African rand and less legal tender. And after that, I want to explain about the employment. Employment in Zimbabwe is a profound issue, which estimate often suggesting rate exceeding 80%, significantly impacting to people. And number two is high employment rate followed by economic instability characterized by the hyperinflation, currency devaluation, and leading to the widespread jobs losses. And number three for the employment is political instability and inconsistent policy have hindered investment and the economic growth, while the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated the situation, causing further job loss and economic strain. And effort to mitigate employment face significant challenge in the fostering a stable environment.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Fazri bin Muhammad Isa. For the issue of inflation and unemployment in Zimbabwe, Alright, from 2019 to 2024, Zimbabwe has grappled with persistent economic challenges characterized by high inflation and unemployment rates. During 2019 until 2024, inflation in Zimbabwe has been influenced by several critical factors. The factors one is monetary policy challenges. The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, which is RBZ, struggle with managing monetary stability amidst fiscal deficits and currency instability. And the second one is currency depreciation. Depreciation of Zimbabwe dollar, which is ZWL, and adoption of multiple currencies including the US dollar contribute to price instability. Okay, for the high unemployment rates in Zimbabwe from 2019 to 2024 were driven by various factors. The first factors is structural economic challenges, decline in productive sectors and limited economic diversification, constrained job creation. The second one is skill mismatch, inadequate education system and mismatched skills exacerbate unemployment, particularly among young and women.
The first objective is the main economic objective in the Zimbabwe to achieve to advance and sustainable growth, reduce poverty and improve the living standards towards a structural transformation and development of the public and private sector. And number two is the government intends to stabilize the economic environment, increase agricultural activity, increase industrial. And number three is effort are also more focused on improving fiscal management and controlling inflation and dealing with the debt issue abroad.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Sharifah Alia Natasha binti Said Ainul Amris. Next is public policy in Zimbabwe. Since gaining political independence from the Great Britain on the 18th April 1980, Zimbabwe has encountered lots of challenges in running country, such as an economic crisis that happened in 1999 that lasted until 2009. And today I'm going to present two types of policy that have been implemented by the Zimbabwe government. First and foremost is the Zimbabwe monetary policy. The implementation of the monetary policy is that Zimbabwe has recently introduced a new gold-backed currency known as ZIG, which stands for Zimbabwe Gold. The Zimbabwe Gold, ZIG, serves as a replacement for the Zimbabwe dollar, and the real-time gross settlement (RTGS) that had lost 3/4 of its value so far this year, with an initial exchange rate set at 13.5616 against the US dollar. Thus, the ZIG will be available in both coins, that is 25 cent and 50 cent, and also banknotes of 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, 50, 100 and 200. Apart from that, this is the latest attempt to stabilize an economy that has been struggling from crisis to crisis over the last 25 years. Apart from that, the central bank governor, John Mushayavanhu, said the ZIG would be structured and based on the market-determined exchange rate. Thus, he is very committed to ensure that the amount of local currency in circulation was backed by an equivalent value in precious mineral, that is primarily gold, as well as foreign exchange, in order to prevent the local currency from losing its value like what happened in the past. In addition, the Zimbabwean had a historic mistrust of the central bank since a tragedy that happened all the way back to 2008, when it printed 10 trillion Zimbabwe dollar notes while inflation spiraled out of control. However, they used to abolish the Zimbabwe's currency and only use foreign banknotes for many years, such as US dollar. These are example pictures of ZIG currency. The second policy is the extension of multi-currency regime. In October 2023, the Zimbabwean government announced that they will maintain the multi-currency system that had been officially adopted since 19 April 2009. Thus, this system has been adopted in response to hyperinflation of the Zimbabwean dollar, which also adopted a basket of multiple currencies led by the United States dollar and South African rand. In addition, citizens and businesses had switched from using the Zimbabwean dollar due to extreme hyperinflation, which was recorded to reach more than 250 million% officially in July 2008. Furthermore, the local currency was reintroduced in February 2019 under the Real-Time Gross Settlement (RTGS) with the exchange rate pegged at $1 to 2.5 Zimbabwean dollar. However, the attempt failed to gain traction as the businesses and customers preferred to use foreign currency or alternative payment methods such as mobile money. This multi-currency regime was expected to expire in 2025, but it was now has been extended to 2030 and making the United States dollar remain as a legal tender. Some analysis suggests that the government's decision to extend the multi-currency regime was very realistic response to economic concerns, since this action would somehow offer relief and build up the confidence to businesses and banks. They also argued that the United States dollar was too strong for the Zimbabwean fragile economy, and that there is more suitable currency option should be considered in the long run. To a certain extent, we do hope that this effort could help the Zimbabwe's economic position to recover well while preventing the country from experiencing the worst economic like they had gone through before in the past.
Okay, move to my part, which is the recommendation how to solve issue unemployment and inflation in the Zimbabwe country. The first recommendation is economic diversification. It has two categories, which is the agriculture sector and also tourism sector. For the agriculture sector, the government trying to invest new modern technique irrigation to improve the farming. Then it also can support a smallholder farmer with training and a good resource for less able farmer. Through the tourism sector, the government need to improve their facility in the country so it can get the people wealth of Zimbabwe cultural and natural heritage to increase tourism so that it become an attraction of the foreign tourists. From this point, it helped to boost the tourism sector and unemployment rate need to create a related job to tourism, and at the same time it will increase the economic sector. Then from this point, to boost the tourism sector and unemployment rate, the people there need to create a related job to tourism, and at the same time it will also increase the economic sectors. Last, tourism has the potential to contribute to the reduction of poverty in the country. The second recommendation is increasing industrial and manufacturing. Improve the manufacturing sectors by encouraging to investment in the manufacturing sector through the tax incentive, subsidy, and the development of industry parks. Subsidy. Production subsidy with the direct financial support to manufacturers can help in reducing production costs as well as making local product goods more competitive compared to the import goods. This, it can stimulate demand for locally made goods and also encourage continued investment. Besides that, with export subsidy, it offers subsidy for export in helping the process of manufacturers to penetrate the international market by offsetting some of the costs associated with exporting goods to off the market. Being that could lead to increased foreign exchange earning and a stronger manufacturers. Last, do the local content policy by implement policy that encourage local people to use locally produced goods in public procurement and other sector. Example, boost the production of local goods and reducing import goods, which encourage many workers to produce goods by hiring local workers. The third recommendation is support and cooperation. Help discussion with international financial institutions. By that, this institution can provide policy advice and funding to them to support the stabilization efforts being that. Debt relief reduces the pressure on the immediate financial sector. It negotiates for debt relief or restructuring to reduce the burden of debt payment, as well as which can free up resources to productive use and help in stabilizing the economy. Furthermore, allow the government to allocate more resources needed to address domestic economic priorities. By that, it helps to stabilizing prices and supporting social programs and also investing in productive sectors in the country. The last point for the recommendation is monetary policy. Further, they strengthen the monetary policy, where the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, RBZ, should use a close and more conservative approach to money supply growth and interest rate to curb high inflation pressure. The next, strengthening of exchange rate management to ensure a stable and predictable exchange rate regime to reduce the rate inflation that import from the abroad. From that point, inflation control can be controlled by tightening monetary policy. The example is raising interest rate where it curbs inflation by reducing consumer spending and investment, and it eases an overheated economy. Lastly, when the economy was growing in an inflationary environment, growth prospects would be more favorable with the anticipated exchange rate and price stability.
Okay, for the conclusion, Zimbabwe has recently seen high inflationary pressures, making it one of the most difficult economic periods in its history. The country's economic difficulties may be traced back to the early 2000s, when political instability, dispute land reform, and unsuccessful economic policies created the conditions for hyperinflation. By the mid-2000s, Zimbabwe was experiencing hyperinflation at a level never before seen. Unemployment in Zimbabwe remains a critical issue. Zimbabwe's inflationary problem is a clear illustration of how poor economic management and political choices can completely destroy an economy.